Steve Harvey stopped Family Feud after hearing a racist comment from the crowd. This shocking moment not only halted the laughter, but also ignited a powerful conversation about racism and accountability. In the face of hate, Steve took a courageous stand, challenging everyone in the studio and beyond to confront the darkness within our society. Join us as we explore this pivotal moment that not only transformed the show, but also inspired a movement towards respect and unity. The lights dimmed, and the familiar theme music of Family Feud filled the studio, electrifying the air with anticipation. Families gathered, their faces lit with excitement and nervous energy, ready to compete for cash and glory. The audience buzzed with chatter, every seat filled with eager spectators, each hoping to witness an entertaining clash of wit and strategy. Steve Harvey, the charismatic host known for his quick humor and warm personality, stood at the forefront, exuding confidence as he prepared to engage the audience. His presence was magnetic, drawing everyone into the moment as he welcomed the contestants and introduced the game. As the game began, the atmosphere was charged with enthusiasm. The contestants, a mix of families from diverse backgrounds, stood poised to showcase their knowledge and compete for the grand prize. Laughter erupted with each witty exchange, and the stakes climbed higher with every correct answer. Families cheered for one another, their bond palpable as they strategized and celebrated victories, no matter how small. Contestants leaned in, eager to claim victory for their families, their eyes gleaming with determination. The excitement was infectious, reverberating through the studio, creating a vibrant tapestry of joy and camaraderie. Yet, beneath the cheerful facade, a tension simmered, waiting for the right moment to disrupt the joy. The competitive spirit was fierce, and as the game progressed, the pressure began to mount. Little did they know, a dark shadow lurked just outside the spotlight, threatening to derail the excitement. The audience, caught up in the thrill of the game, was oblivious to the brewing storm. Just as the competition reached its peak, a voice from the crowd pierced through the laughter. A racist comment echoed in the studio, shattering the jovial atmosphere like glass. The words hung in the air, heavy and jarring, instantly freezing the joyous energy that had filled the room. The laughter faded, replaced by an oppressive silence that enveloped everyone. Steve's smile slipped as he processed the weight of the remark, his expression shifting from lightheartedness to disbelief. The vibrant energy of the show was abruptly replaced by discomfort, leaving contestants and the audience alike in shock. In that moment, time seemed to stand still. The studio lights, once warm and inviting, now felt stark and glaring against the backdrop of tension. Steve, known for his ability to navigate any situation with grace, found himself grappling with how to respond. The camera zoomed in on his face, capturing the complexity of emotions as he fought against the unease that had settled over the studio. But this was just the beginning of a pivotal moment that would change everything for Steve and the audience. The incident would not only test his role as a host, but also challenge societal norms and provoke a broader conversation about racism and accountability in a space meant for entertainment. As the stunned silence lingered in the studio, Steve Harvey stood frozen at the center of the stage, grappling with the weight of the moment that had just unfolded. The audience, once lively and animated, now sat in hushed disbelief, their faces a tapestry of shock, discomfort, and confusion. The vibrant energy that had filled the room moments before had vanished, replaced by an oppressive stillness that seemed to echo throughout the studio. It was as if the air itself had thickened, creating a palpable barrier between the joyous atmosphere of the game show and the harsh reality of the comment that had just shattered it. Steve's mind raced as he processed the racist remark, that had abruptly interrupted the cheerful banter. The laughter that had filled the space moments ago now felt like a distant memory, leaving behind a void that was both uncomfortable and profound. He could feel the weight of the moment settling on him, pressing down like a heavy cloak. This was not just a minor incident. It was a pivotal moment that demanded a thoughtful response, not only for the show, but for the wider audience who would be watching at home. In the silence, Steve could sense the collective tension in the room. Contestants glanced nervously at one another, their expressions reflecting a mix of disbelief and concern. The audience, too, seemed frozen, holding their breath as they awaited his next move. Would he ignore the comment and attempt to steer the game back on course? Or would he choose to confront the hate head-on? The stakes felt extraordinarily high. He understood that whatever choice he made could lead to unforeseen consequences, perhaps even backlash from the network or a shift in public perception. As he stood there, the familiar sounds of the game faded into the background, replaced by a cacophony of thoughts swirling in his mind. He envisioned the families gathered around their televisions at home, the young viewers who might be influenced by what they saw, and the broader audience that looked to him as a role model. Would they think it was acceptable to let such comments slide? Would they believe that silence equated to complicity? The responsibility weighed heavily on him, and he knew that he had to make a decision, one that could define the course of his career and the show itself. Suddenly, a flicker of inner resolve sparked within him. Steve raised his hand, signaling for silence. The audience, still reeling from the moment, fell quiet, their eyes locked onto him, filled with anticipation. "We need to talk about that," he declared, his voice steady yet firm, cutting through the heavy silence like a knife. The words echoed in the studio, breaking the tension that had gripped everyone. This was the turning point, the moment he chose to confront the uncomfortable truth that had intruded upon their light-hearted competition. With the audience hanging on his every word, Steve prepared to address the racist comment head-on. The atmosphere was thick with tension, anticipation hanging in the air as everyone waited for his response. He could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on him. The hope that he would navigate this difficult situation with the same charisma and clarity that had made him a beloved host. He took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts, acutely aware that this moment could alter the course of the show, and perhaps even his career. "Racism has no place here," he began, his voice resonating with conviction. "We are all here to have fun, to celebrate our differences, and to enjoy the time we have with our families. Comments like that divide us, and we cannot let that happen." As he spoke, he felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through him, a mix of fear and determination. This was not just a performance. It was a stand against hate, a call for unity that transcended the confines of the game show. His heart raced, knowing that his words could elicit a range of reactions. What if the audience reacted negatively? What if he lost his job? The risks loomed large, but the moment called for courage. As he asserted his stance, a wave of applause erupted from the audience, affirming his message. The sound filled the studio, transforming the atmosphere from tension to solidarity. The applause was not only a reaction to his words, but also a collective acknowledgement of the importance of standing against prejudice. In that moment, the energy shifted back to a positive, united front. Contestants exchanged glances, their expressions reflecting relief and support for their host, grateful that he had taken the lead in addressing the issue. The audience, too, felt a renewed sense of empowerment, ready to embrace the message of love and acceptance that Steve had championed. The laughter that followed was not just a return to normalcy. It was a collective affirmation that they would not let hate overshadow their joy. Steve, standing before the audience, felt a profound sense of purpose wash over him. He had confronted the darkness that had threatened to overshadow the event, and in doing so, he had ignited a conversation that extended far beyond the set of Family Feud. This was about more than just a game. It was about humanity, respect, and the collective responsibility to uplift one another. As the show resumed, the atmosphere was markedly different. The playful banter returned, but now it held a deeper significance. Contestants answered questions with renewed enthusiasm, buoyed by the shared understanding that they were part of something greater than themselves. The audience, too, felt a sense of camaraderie, united in their commitment to reject hate and embrace kindness. In that pivotal moment, Steve Harvey had not only confronted a racist comment, he had sparked a dialogue that would resonate throughout the nation. The decision to speak out marked the beginning of a transformative journey, not just for him, but for everyone watching, reminding them that they too had a role in standing against hate. As the credits rolled and the studio lights dimmed, Steve reflected on the evening's events. He understood that this moment would be more than just a fleeting incident. It would become a defining chapter in his career. He had taken a stand, not only for himself, but for all those who had ever felt marginalized or silenced. The impact of his words lingered in the air, a promise that the fight against racism and intolerance would continue, echoing far beyond the confines of the game show. As the applause gradually faded, the atmosphere in the studio remained charged with energy and anticipation. Steve Harvey stood at the center of the stage, acutely aware of the weight of the moment. The audience was not merely watching a game show. They were part of a significant conversation about race, respect, and the power of words. The palpable tension in the air made it clear that everyone was awaiting his next move, eager to hear how he would navigate the aftermath of his bold stand against hate. With the audience hanging on his every word, Steve prepared to address the racist comment head-on. He sensed the collective breath held in the room, the audience poised for his response. This was not just another segment of the game. This was a defining moment that could shape the narrative of the show and his career. The stakes felt higher than ever, and he knew he had to tread carefully, balancing honesty with diplomacy, conviction with compassion. Steve took a deep breath, steeling himself. He was acutely aware that his words could resonate far beyond the walls of the studio, echoing in homes and communities across the nation. Millions of viewers were watching at home, and the ripple effects of his response could influence conversations in households everywhere. He understood that he had a platform, and with that platform came a responsibility to speak out against injustice, to challenge hatred, and to advocate for understanding. Let me be very clear. Racism has no place here, he began, his voice strong and unwavering, cutting through the heavy silence. We are all part of this great tapestry of humanity, and it's time we start treating each other with the respect we all deserve. The sincerity in his tone was palpable, and he could feel the audience leaning in, hanging on every word. This was a moment of truth, a chance to confront the discomfort head-on and challenge the narrative that had threatened to derail their evening. As saudis, he continued. Steve's heart raced with a mix of adrenaline and anxiety. What if the audience reacted negatively? What if he faced backlash from the network or lost fans? The risks loomed large in his mind, but the moment called for courage. He thought of the families watching at home, the young viewers who would take away lessons from this moment. Would they see that standing up against hate was the right thing to do? Would they learn that silence in the face of prejudice was not an option? Tonight, we celebrate our differences and our shared humanity, he declared, his voice rising with passion. We can laugh together, we can play together, but we cannot allow hate to seep into our hearts or into this show. A wave of applause erupted from the audience, affirming his message and signaling their support. The sound reverberated throughout the studio, a powerful reminder that they were united in their stand against racism. As the applause surged, Steve felt a sense of release, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. The cheers and claps were not merely reactions to his words. They were a collective acknowledgement of the importance of standing against prejudice. He could see the relief on the faces of the contestants, who were now beaming with pride at being part of a show that dared to confront difficult issues. The initial shock of the moment had transformed into a shared commitment to embrace love and understanding. Let's not forget, he continued, his gaze sweeping across the audience, that our actions and words have power. Every single one of us has a role to play in making this world a better place. Steve's voice resonated with sincerity, and he could see heads nodding in agreement throughout the audience. The energy in the room had shifted from discomfort to empowerment, a shared understanding that they were all part of something larger than themselves, a movement toward acceptance and respect. As he spoke, the atmosphere in the studio became electric. Contestants exchanged glances, their expressions filled with gratitude for Steve's leadership. They had come to compete, but now they were part of a much bigger conversation, one that transcended the game itself. The stakes of their participation had shifted. They were no longer just players in a game, but ambassadors for change, sharing a message of unity and resilience. The energy surged as the audience erupted into applause once again, their cheers echoing off the walls and filling the studio with a sense of hope. Steve smiled, feeling a rush of relief and exhilaration. The support from the audience was palpable, a clear signal that they were ready to embrace the message he was sharing. It was a moment of connection, where laughter and joy could coexist with the serious conversations that needed to be had. Yet, even amid this positivity, Steve remained acutely aware that the journey ahead would not be easy. While the studio had transformed into a space of solidarity, the reality outside those walls was far more complex. There would be critics, there would be backlash, and there would be those who would challenge his decision to speak out. But he knew that this was a risk worth taking. He believed in the power of his message and the importance of standing up for what was right, even in the face of adversity. As the segment progressed, Steve felt a renewed sense of purpose. The game resumed, but it was clear that the atmosphere had changed. Contestants answered questions with renewed enthusiasm, buoyed by the shared understanding that they were part of something significant. Each correct answer was met with cheers, and the laughter that filled the studio now felt richer, deeper, fueled by a commitment to unity and respect. As the episode drew to a close, Steve reflected on the impact of his words. He had addressed the audience not just as a host, but as a leader, a voice for those who might not have the platform to speak out. He had taken a stand against hate, and in doing so, he had ignited a conversation that would resonate far beyond the set of Family Feud. The credits rolled, and the studio lights dimmed, but Steve felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had chosen to confront the darkness, to challenge hate with love and respect. As he walked off the stage, he knew that the fight for understanding and equality was just beginning. The journey ahead would be challenging, but he was ready to embrace it, knowing that he had the support of his audience and the power of his platform behind him. In the days that followed, the impact of his stand began to ripple through social media and news outlets. Clips of his speech circulated widely, igniting discussions across various platforms. People began to share their own experiences with racism and the importance of speaking out. Steve noticed messages pouring in, thanking him for his bravery and for using his platform to address such a critical issue. These messages reaffirmed his belief in the significance of his actions and the conversations they sparked. In his heart, Steve knew that he had taken a step toward creating a legacy of change. He was no longer just a game show host. He had become a voice for those who felt voiceless, an advocate for a more inclusive and understanding society. The journey was just beginning, but he was committed to ensuring that the conversation around race and respect would continue, not only on his show, but in every corner of the country. As the applause from the previous episode gradually faded into the background, the ramifications of Steve Harvey's bold stand against racism began to ripple through the media landscape. The studio, once a vibrant hub of laughter and competition, now buzzed with a different kind of energy, a mix of excitement and apprehension as everyone braced for the aftermath of the pivotal moment. The game resumed, but the atmosphere had irrevocably changed. The audience felt empowered, yet underlying questions loomed about the repercussions of Steve's courageous decision. In the days following the broadcast, social media exploded with reactions. Clips of Steve's speech circulated widely, igniting fierce conversations across various platforms. Support poured in from viewers who praised his bravery and willingness to confront hate directly. Hashtags promoting unity and respect trended on Twitter, reflecting a growing movement sparked by his words. Yet, with every wave of support came a tide of criticism. Not everyone was pleased with his decision to address the comment. Many felt that a game show should remain lighthearted and free from serious discussions about race. Steve found himself at the epicenter of a national conversation, and with it came a heavy burden. He was inundated with messages, some praising him for his leadership, while others criticized him for politicizing a show that was meant to entertain. As he scrolled through the myriad of comments, he felt a familiar mix of pride and anxiety. Would he face backlash from the network? Would loyal fans turn away because they felt he had overstepped? In the midst of this digital storm, Steve knew he needed to remain focused. He turned to his team, gathering them for a meeting to discuss the immediate fallout and how they could best navigate the situation. "We have a unique opportunity here," he told them, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions within him. "This isn't just about Family Feud anymore. It's about starting a dialogue that can lead to real change." As the episode aired and discussions continued, major news outlets picked up the story, spotlighting Steve's bravery. Articles praised his decision to speak out and highlighted the importance of confronting racism in all forms. Interviews followed, with Steve appearing on various talk shows to discuss his experience and the broader implications of his stance. Each appearance brought new challenges as he navigated the complexities of public discourse. He faced questions from journalists about what it meant to use his platform for social change, and he responded with sincerity, emphasizing the necessity of fostering conversations about race and respect. Steve's words resonated strongly with many, but he also encountered skepticism. Some critics argued that he had crossed a line, asserting that a game show should remain free from political or social issues. "It's just supposed to be fun," one commentator exclaimed on a popular morning show. "Why bring in these heavy topics?" Such sentiments echoed in various forums, amplifying the tension surrounding his decision. Behind the scenes, the production team grappled with the fallout as well. Meetings were held to discuss the implications of Steve's comments on the show's future direction. Some producers worried that the show's ratings might decline due to the controversy, while others argued that this was an opportunity to redefine the show's legacy and position it as a platform for meaningful dialogue. The tension was palpable, as everyone debated the balance between entertainment and advocacy. Steve remained vigilant, understanding that the show's direction might be at a crossroads. He proposed the idea of creating special episodes that would highlight stories of resilience, hope, and community, showcasing families who had overcome adversity. He envisioned segments that would not only entertain, but educate, drawing on real-life examples of individuals and families who had faced discrimination and emerged stronger. "This is our chance to do something different," he urged his team. "Let's use our platform to inspire change and promote understanding." As the weeks passed, the dialogue surrounding Steve's actions grew. Viewers across the country were inspired to join the conversation about racism and accountability. Social media platforms became battlegrounds for discussions about race, with individuals sharing their own experiences and advocating for change. Steve's voice resonated with many, and he found himself in a unique position to influence a broader movement. His decision had ignited a fire, and he was committed to keeping it alive. Yet, despite the overwhelming support, pressure mounted. The stakes were higher now, with the eyes of the world watching him closely. Network executives began to analyze ratings data, looking for trends that could indicate the impact of Steve's actions on viewership. Some reported spikes in audience engagement, while others expressed concern over potential backlash. The mixed feedback left Steve feeling uncertain, and he often found himself questioning whether he had made the right decision. In the midst of this turmoil, Steve leaned on his family and friends for support. They reminded him of the importance of staying true to his values and the impact of using his platform for good. He attended community events and engaged with local leaders, further grounding himself in the realities of the conversations he was sparking. He listened to the stories of those who had faced discrimination and hate, and he felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was not just about him. It was about creating a movement that could foster change. As the show continued to air new episodes, the audience's response remained mixed. Some viewers celebrated Steve's leadership and the show's new direction, while others expressed dissatisfaction, feeling that the show had strayed too far from its original format. The tension became evident during live tapings, where the energy in the studio fluctuated between enthusiasm and unease. Contestants were often nervous, acutely aware of the heightened scrutiny surrounding the show. Steve worked diligently to create an environment that felt safe and supportive, encouraging participants to be themselves while remaining mindful of the larger conversation at play. In a pivotal episode, Steve chose to address the criticism directly. Standing before the audience, he shared his reflections on the challenges they had faced together. "I know some of you are concerned about where we're headed," he began, his voice steady. "But I believe we have a responsibility to confront hate wherever it arises. This show has always been about family, fun, and community. And that means we must also embrace the tough conversations that can help us grow." His candor resonated deeply with the audience, and the response was immediate. A wave of applause erupted, filling the studio with an atmosphere of support and understanding. In that moment, Steve felt a surge of relief. He was not alone in this journey. They were all in it together, grappling with difficult conversations, but committed to fostering a more inclusive environment. As the episode concluded, Steve realized that the fallout from his initial confrontation with racism had transformed into an opportunity for growth, dialogue, and change. His choice to speak out had sparked a movement, one that was still unfolding, and he was determined to be at the forefront of that conversation. With every challenge that arose, he was reminded of the profound impact of his actions and the importance of using his platform to advocate for understanding and respect. In the following weeks, Steve's commitment to the cause deepened. He began collaborating with organizations dedicated to combating racism and promoting diversity. He organized events where community members could come together to share their stories, fostering an environment of healing and understanding. The events attracted a wide range of participants, from young children to elderly community leaders, each bringing their unique perspectives and experiences. At one event, Steve stood before a crowd of eager listeners, sharing his journey and the lessons he had learned along the way. "We all have a story," he told them, his voice filled with emotion. "And it's time we start listening to each other. Change doesn't happen overnight, but together, we can pave the way for a better tomorrow." The crowd erupted into applause, but it wasn't just for Steve. It was a collective acknowledgement of the power of their shared experiences and the strength found in unity. As the show continued to evolve, so did Steve's approach to hosting. He began incorporating themes of respect and inclusion into the games, designing questions that encouraged contestants to think critically about social issues. The new format not only entertained, but also educated viewers, prompting discussions that extended long after the episodes aired. Families gathered around their televisions, engaging in conversations about the topics raised during the show. And Steve felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing he was contributing to a larger dialogue. However, the journey was not without its challenges. Negative reactions persisted, especially from those who felt that the show had lost its essence. Some longtime fans expressed their disappointment, claiming that the humor and lightness that had characterized Family Feud were being overshadowed by serious topics. The pressure weighed heavily on Steve, but he remained steadfast in his belief that the time for change had arrived. He understood that progress often came with discomfort, and he was willing to embrace that discomfort for the greater good. In the weeks that followed, Steve received numerous invitations to participate in panel discussions and conferences focusing on diversity and inclusion. He traveled across the country, meeting with educators, activists, and community leaders, all eager to share their insights and strategies for combating racism. Each encounter fueled his passion, reminding him of the essential work still needed to create a more just society. One evening, after a particularly inspiring event in a small town, Steve returned to his hotel room feeling invigorated. He reflected on the stories he had heard that day, stories of struggle, resilience, and hope. It struck him how interconnected their experiences were, despite their differences. He pulled out his notebook, jotting down thoughts and ideas for future segments of Family Feud. He envisioned episodes that would showcase the power of community, celebrate cultural diversity, and highlight the importance of empathy. As he continued to develop these ideas, Steve felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was not just about confronting racism on a game show. It was about cultivating a culture of respect and understanding in every facet of life. He began to envision Family Feud as a platform for change, a place where laughter and learning could coexist, and where audiences could engage with important issues while still enjoying the light-hearted competition they loved. As the show prepared to air its next episode, Steve felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He knew that this was yet another opportunity to continue the conversation and further challenge the status quo. The energy in the studio was palpable, and as the lights dimmed, Steve took a moment to gather his thoughts. He reminded himself of the journey he had undertaken, the lives he had touched, and the importance of using his voice for good. When the cameras rolled, Steve stood confidently before the audience, ready to embrace the challenges ahead. The laughter and joy that filled the studio were a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of community. Together, they were not just contestants on a game show. They were participants in a movement united in their pursuit of understanding and respect. As the episode concluded, Steve felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He had faced the fallout of his decision head-on and had emerged stronger, more determined than ever to advocate for change. The journey was ongoing, but he was committed to ensuring that the conversation surrounding race and respect would continue, not only on Family Feud, but in every corner of society. With renewed vigor, he stepped off the stage, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that together they could foster a future where love and understanding triumphed over hate and division. As the weeks transitioned into months, Steve Harvey found himself at the forefront of a movement that was gradually reshaping the landscape of his show and the conversation surrounding it. The initial fallout from his stand against racism had evolved into something much deeper, an ongoing dialogue about respect, empathy, and the importance of confronting difficult truths. Family Feud was no longer just a game show. It had transformed into a platform for change, a space where laughter coexisted with serious discussions about social issues that affected everyday lives. Steve's commitment to this new direction was unwavering. He had embraced the challenge of using his platform to highlight stories of resilience, bridging gaps between diverse communities and fostering understanding. Each episode became a canvas for exploration, where contestants not only competed for prizes, but also shared their personal experiences, creating a tapestry of voices that resonated with viewers across the nation. The atmosphere in the studio had shifted significantly. It was charged with an energy that felt both hopeful and transformative. The studio's atmosphere was electric, filled with a palpable sense of purpose and connection. Contestants were eager to participate, not only for the chance to win, but also to contribute to a larger conversation. They shared stories of overcoming adversity, celebrating cultural heritage, and learning from one another. The laughter that filled the studio was richer now. Imbued with a deeper meaning, each joke, each moment of joy, served as a reminder of the strength found in unity. In this new era of Family Feud, themes of respect and inclusivity became integral to the game. Steve introduced segments that highlighted the importance of understanding different perspectives, encouraging contestants to engage in discussions about their backgrounds and experiences. Questions were crafted to reflect not just trivia, but also the values of empathy and cooperation. What's the best way to celebrate diversity in your family? Became a staple question, prompting heartfelt discussions among contestants and viewers alike. One particularly memorable evening, as Steve prepared for the taping of a special episode, he felt a mix of excitement and nervousness coursing through him. This show would feature families from various cultural backgrounds, each with unique stories and experiences that deserved to be heard. Steve wanted to ensure that the episode celebrated their diversity while also addressing the challenges they faced as individuals and families in a complex society. He understood that it was crucial to strike a balance between entertainment and meaningful dialogue. Backstage, the energy was palpable. Contestants mingled, sharing laughter and stories, their camaraderie evident. Steve could see the joy in their eyes, a reflection of the connections they were forging not just as competitors, but as members of a shared community. He took a moment to speak with each family, encouraging them to embrace their narratives and share their truths. "Tonight, it's about more than just winning," he said, his voice filled with warmth and sincerity. "It's about showing the world who you are and how we can all come together." As the cameras rolled, Steve introduced the episode with his signature charisma. Welcome to a special edition of Family Feud. Tonight, we're celebrating families from all walks of life, showcasing the beauty of our differences and the strength of our unity. The audience erupted in applause, and he felt a wave of support wash over him. This was a moment of triumph, a culmination of the journey they had embarked on together. Throughout the episode, families shared their stories, recounting experiences of love, struggle, and resilience. One family spoke about their immigrant journey, detailing the challenges they faced while navigating a new culture, the sacrifices their parents had made, and the hope they carried for future generations. Another family shared the story of overcoming discrimination, finding strength within their community, and the importance of standing together against adversity. Each narrative was met with cheers and encouragement from the audience, reinforcing the bonds that were forming in the studio. As the show progressed, Steve took the opportunity to facilitate discussions between contestants, encouraging them to ask questions and learn from one another's experiences. "What's something you've learned from your family that you think others should know?" he prompted, inviting a heartfelt exchange of wisdom and experiences. The stories that unfolded were powerful, showcasing not only the richness of cultural diversity, but also the shared humanity that connected them all in their struggles and triumphs. One poignant moment arose when a contestant shared a painful memory of being bullied in school for her cultural background. As she spoke, her voice trembled, revealing the deep scars of that experience. The audience fell silent, hanging on to her every word. "I learned to embrace my identity, to wear my culture with pride," she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "It took time, but I realized that my differences are what make me unique and beautiful." The audience erupted in applause, a wave of support that enveloped her like a warm hug. And Steve felt a swell of pride for the bravery she had shown in sharing her story. As the episode drew to a close, Steve felt a profound sense of accomplishment wash over him. The laughter, the tears, the moments of connection. It was all a testament to the power of storytelling and the importance of understanding one another. "We may come from different backgrounds, but tonight we've shown that we're all part of the same family," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "And that's what makes us stronger." The audience responded with a standing ovation, their cheers echoing throughout the studio, affirming the impact of the night's conversations. In the days that followed, the episode aired to widespread acclaim. Viewers praised the heartfelt stories and the emphasis on community and understanding. Social media buzzed with reactions as families shared their own experiences in response to the show. Family Feud unity trended on Twitter, and Steve's decision to highlight these narratives resonated with audiences far beyond what he had anticipated. He received messages from viewers expressing gratitude for the representation and the opportunity to see their lives reflected on screen. However, amidst the celebration, Steve remained grounded. He knew that the journey was far from over. While significant strides had been made, there was still much work to be done. Conversations about race, respect, and understanding needed to continue, and he was determined to keep pushing the envelope. The success of the special episode had inspired him to think even bigger. The following weeks brought more opportunities for growth. Inspired by the positive feedback from the special episode, Steve began collaborating with organizations focused on social justice and community building. He hosted workshops that brought together individuals from different backgrounds, fostering dialogue and understanding. These events became a safe space for participants to share their stories, confront their biases, and learn from one another. One memorable workshop took place in a community center that served a diverse population. Participants arrived with varying perspectives, some eager to engage, while others were hesitant, unsure of how to navigate the discussions. Steve welcomed everyone with open arms, encouraging them to share their thoughts and experiences. "This is a judgment-free zone," he assured them. "We're here to listen, learn, and grow together." His warmth and sincerity helped to ease the tension in the room, allowing conversations to flow more freely. As the workshop progressed, Steve facilitated discussions that challenged participants to confront their preconceived notions and biases. He encouraged them to ask questions, share their experiences, and listen actively to one another. The atmosphere shifted from apprehension to openness, and individuals began to connect on a deeper level. Stories of struggle and resilience emerged, and the room filled with a sense of camaraderie and understanding. During one poignant moment, a young woman shared her experience of growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood, feeling isolated and misunderstood. Her vulnerability resonated with many in the room, sparking a discussion about identity and belonging. Others shared their own stories of alienation, and as they spoke, it became clear that despite their different backgrounds, they all craved acceptance and understanding. The conversations unfolded organically, revealing common threads that bound them together. As the workshop came to a close, participants expressed gratitude for the opportunity to engage in such meaningful conversations. Many exchanged contact information, eager to continue the dialogue beyond the confines of the event. Steve felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that he had played a role in fostering these connections. He was reminded of the power of storytelling and the importance of creating spaces where individuals could come together to share their truths. Yet, even as progress was made, challenges persisted. Some individuals pushed back against the conversations, expressing discomfort with discussing race and its implications. Steve encountered resistance from those who preferred to avoid these topics, believing they were too divisive. He understood their concerns, but remained committed to addressing the discomfort head-on. "Change isn't easy," he often reminded participants, "but it's necessary. We can't grow if we're not willing to have difficult conversations. It's through these discussions that we find common ground and build a better future." As the months rolled on, Steve's dedication to promoting understanding and respect continued to deepen. He recognized that the journey toward unity would be ongoing, filled with both triumphs and setbacks. But he remained resolute in his belief that every conversation mattered, and that each story shared could contribute to a larger narrative of compassion and connection. With the new season of Family Feud approaching, Steve was determined to build on the momentum they had created. He envisioned episodes that would incorporate themes of community and collaboration, inviting families to compete while also sharing their stories of resilience. He wanted to showcase not just the fun of the game, but also the strength found in vulnerability and understanding. As he prepared for the upcoming season, Steve reflected on the incredible journey they had undertaken together. From the initial fallout of his stand against racism to the transformative conversations that had emerged, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He understood that this was just the beginning of a larger movement, one that could continue to inspire change and foster connections among individuals from all walks of life. With determination in his heart, Steve stepped onto the stage for the first taping of the new season, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. He knew that the road would not always be easy, but he had faith in the power of dialogue and the strength of community. Together, they would continue to build a future where respect and understanding prevailed, and where every voice was heard and valued. As the lights shone brightly on the stage, Steve took a deep breath. feeling the energy of the audience wash over him. He was about to embark on yet another chapter of this journey, one filled with hope, compassion, and the unwavering belief that together they could create a better world, one conversation at a time. As time passed, the impact of Steve Harvey's bold stand against racism became increasingly evident, rippling through communities across the nation. The air was charged with conversations about race and respect, echoing through households, schools, and community centers. People from all walks of life felt empowered to speak out against hate and discrimination. Inspired by Steve's courage to confront these issues head-on, what had begun as a moment of controversy on the set of Family Feud had blossomed into a widespread movement, igniting dialogues that transcended the boundaries of the show. In cities large and small, grassroots organizations sprang to life, hosting discussions, workshops, and events aimed at fostering understanding and promoting diversity. Schools implemented programs designed to educate students about different cultures and perspectives, encouraging them to appreciate the beauty of diversity from a young age. Local leaders held forums that invited members of the community to share their experiences and engage in meaningful conversations. The ripple effect of Steve's decision was undeniable, as individuals who had previously felt silenced found their voices and began to advocate for change. Steve watched in awe as the conversations flourished, feeling a deep sense of pride in the role he had played in this transformation. He received countless messages from fans, thanking him for his bravery and expressing how his actions had inspired them to stand up against injustice in their own lives. Stories poured in from viewers who had found the courage to confront racism in their communities, sharing how they had organized rallies, started dialogues, and taken action to support marginalized groups. Each story warmed Steve's heart and reaffirmed his belief that the work they were doing was essential. However, the journey wasn't without its challenges. Critics remained, and the conversation could sometimes turn hostile. Social media became a battleground, with heated debates raging between supporters of the show's new direction and those who longed for the good old days of lighthearted entertainment. Some fans expressed disappointment, insisting that Family Feud had strayed too far from its roots. "Why can't we just have fun?" one commenter lamented. "I watch game shows to escape from reality, not to be lectured about social issues." Steve felt the weight of these criticisms, and there were moments when doubt crept in, whispering insidiously in the back of his mind. He questioned whether he had made the right decision to address racism so openly on a platform meant for entertainment. Yet, he also knew that avoiding these conversations would only perpetuate the very issues he sought to challenge. He grappled with the tension between staying true to his values and appeasing those who felt alienated by the show's new focus. One evening, as Steve prepared for a taping, he found himself reflecting on the journey thus far. He sat in his dressing room, scrolling through social media, reading both praise and criticism. The duality of the responses was overwhelming. On one hand, he saw messages from viewers expressing gratitude for the change and sharing their own stories of resilience. On the other hand, there were harsh criticisms reminding him that not everyone was on board with the direction of the show. Determined to reaffirm his commitment, Steve decided to hold a special episode that would directly address the criticism. He invited a panel of guests, diverse voices from various backgrounds, including activists, educators, and even some critics of the show, to engage in an open dialogue about the importance of confronting racism and fostering understanding. "Let's have a real conversation," he said, his resolve strengthening. "If we're going to do this, we need to be honest and open about our experiences." The special episode was a turning point, a moment that would define not only the season, but also the future of the show. As the cameras rolled, Steve facilitated a candid discussion that explored the complexities of race, privilege and the responsibility of media to reflect society's realities. The guests shared personal stories, highlighting their struggles and triumphs in navigating a world often fraught with discrimination. The atmosphere was raw and emotional, as audience members listened intently, feeling the weight of the conversations unfolding before them. One guest, a young activist named Maya, spoke passionately about her experience organizing a protest against racial injustice in her community. "It's not just about the big moments," she explained, her voice unwavering. "It's about the everyday actions we take to stand up for what's right. We have to challenge each other to be better." Her words resonated deeply, igniting a sense of hope among the audience as they recognized the power of individual action in the face of systemic issues. As the discussion continued, Steve remained anchored in his belief that these conversations were necessary. He acknowledged the discomfort some viewers might feel, but emphasized the importance of addressing these topics head-on. "Change isn't easy," he said, his voice steady and firm. "But it's essential. We can't shy away from difficult conversations if we want to create a better future." The episode sparked a renewed wave of conversations across social media, with viewers expressing appreciation for the honesty and vulnerability demonstrated on the show. Critics, who had previously voiced their discontent, began to reconsider their stance, acknowledging that, while they enjoyed the humor of Family Feud, the discussions surrounding race and unity were equally significant. The narrative of the show was evolving, and with it came a growing recognition of the importance of representation and dialogue in media. As the season progressed, Steve continued to integrate meaningful discussions into the show while maintaining its entertaining spirit. He introduced segments that celebrated cultural diversity, showcasing families and traditions from around the nation. The audience responded enthusiastically, embracing the blend of fun and education that characterized the new episodes. Families shared their unique customs, laughter, and heartfelt stories, reinforcing the idea that while they might come from different backgrounds, they all shared a common humanity. In one memorable episode, Steve invited a family of Native American descent to share their traditions, highlighting the significance of their culture and the importance of preserving their heritage. The family spoke passionately about their connection to the land and their ancestors, sharing stories passed down through generations. The audience listened intently, captivated by the rich tapestry of their experiences, and Steve felt a deep sense of fulfillment knowing that he was helping to amplify voices that had long been marginalized. As the season finale approached, Steve felt a mixture of excitement and nostalgia. He wanted the final episode to encapsulate the journey they had all undertaken together, to celebrate the courage of those who had shared their stories and the resilience of families across the nation. He envisioned a grand finale that would not only entertain, but also honor the profound impact they had made. He decided to invite back families from previous episodes, each sharing how their experiences on the show had transformed their lives and the lives of those around them. This would be a celebration of unity, resilience, and the power of storytelling. The finale was a spectacular event, filled with joy, laughter, and reflection. The studio was adorned with decorations that represented the diverse cultures of the families who had participated throughout the season. As the audience filed in, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation and excitement, a palpable energy that hinted at the emotional stories about to unfold. As the show began, Steve welcomed back familiar faces, celebrating their journeys and the lessons they had learned. One family recounted how they had started a community garden to promote togetherness and understanding among neighbors, bridging gaps between cultures through shared labor and love. Another family shared their journey of healing after confronting their biases, learning to embrace diversity within their community, and how that growth had positively impacted their children's perspectives. In his closing remarks, Steve looked out at the audience, his heart full. "Tonight, we celebrate not just the end of a season, but the beginning of a movement," he declared, his voice resonating with emotion. "Together, we've shown that laughter can coexist with meaningful conversations, and that our differences only make us stronger." The applause that followed was thunderous, a testament to the impact of the season and the conversations that had emerged. As the lights dimmed and the cameras stopped rolling, Steve felt a renewed sense of purpose. The journey had been filled with challenges, but it had also been marked by triumphs and connections that would last a lifetime. He knew that the work was far from over, and that the conversations about respect and understanding would continue beyond the confines of the show. With a heart full of hope, Steve stepped off the stage, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. He was committed to using his platform to foster dialogue, inspire change, and uplift the voices of those who needed to be heard. Together, they had created a legacy of courage, one that would leave a lasting impact on the industry and society as a whole. As he walked backstage, Steve was greeted by applause from his crew and the families who had participated in the finale. Their smiles reflected the shared joy of the evening, and he felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the journey they had all undertaken. He understood that while challenges would continue to arise, the courage to confront them had already sparked a movement that could not be extinguished. With renewed determination, Steve looked to the future. He knew that the conversations about race and respect would continue to evolve, and he was ready to be at the forefront of that dialogue. Together, they would build a legacy that celebrated unity, understanding, and the power of storytelling. A legacy that would resonate for generations to come. As he prepared to leave the studio that night, Steve took a moment to reflect. The journey he had embarked upon was not merely about a television show. It was about fostering a culture of empathy, resilience, and courage. He felt a profound sense of responsibility to continue the work, to ensure that the conversations he had ignited would persist, growing and evolving as society itself did. With each step he took toward the exit, Steve felt a renewed sense of purpose. He understood that the legacy he was building was not just his own, but a collective effort, one that involved everyone who had shared their stories, their struggles, and their triumphs. Together, they would continue to pave the way for a future where understanding and kindness prevailed over division and hate, creating a world where every voice mattered and every story was valued. With the success of the season finale still fresh in his mind, Steve Harvey reflected on the profound impact Family Feud had made in the lives of viewers. Inspired by the conversations about race and respect that had emerged, he felt a strong responsibility to continue this momentum. The upcoming season promised to build on the legacy of courage they had created together. Steve met with his team to brainstorm new episode ideas, emphasizing the importance of celebrating community and diversity. They planned episodes that would highlight families sharing their struggles and triumphs, showcasing how they came together to support one another. The first episode focused on families from neighborhoods that had united to effect positive change, including the inspiring story of the Martinez family, who transformed their local park into a community hub. However, challenges persisted. Critics continued to voice concerns over the show's focus on social issues, longing for the light-hearted entertainment that had originally drawn them in. In response, Steve initiated a series of virtual town hall meetings, inviting viewers to share their thoughts and experiences. These meetings became a highlight of the season, fostering open dialogue and allowing Steve to connect directly with his audience. One viewer, James, shared his story of overcoming personal struggles with racism, inspiring others to find their voices. Steve listened carefully, using the insights gained from these meetings to shape future episodes. He introduced segments that tackled important topics like mental health and community support, emphasizing the power of storytelling to inspire change. As the season progressed, the conversations from the town halls influenced the show significantly. Steve highlighted families who had made a difference in their communities, including one family that had started a mental health awareness campaign after losing a loved one. Their heartfelt stories resonated deeply with audiences, reinforcing the importance of support and understanding. Despite facing ongoing criticism, Steve remained committed to his mission. He drew strength from the gratitude expressed by viewers, reminding him of the positive impact of his work. As the season finale approached, he envisioned a grand event that would celebrate the resilience and courage of the families featured throughout the season. The finale was a night of joy and reflection, showcasing the stories of families who had inspired change. Steve welcomed back familiar faces, each sharing how their experiences on the show had transformed their lives. In his closing remarks, he celebrated the power of laughter and meaningful conversation, affirming their collective journey toward understanding and unity. As the applause echoed, Steve felt a renewed sense of purpose. He understood that the work was far from over. The conversations about respect and understanding would continue beyond the confines of the show. With a heart full of hope, he stepped off the stage, committed to using his platform to foster dialogue and inspire change. In the end, Steve realized that the legacy he was building was a collective effort, one that involved everyone who had shared their stories. Together, they would pave the way for a future where understanding and kindness prevailed, creating a world where every voice mattered and every story was valued.